USS Stennis comes home. I'm Bryan Moore, and this is Focus NNS. We're here at Dry Dock 11 at Newport News Shipbuilding, where USS Stennis is back for her midlife refueling and overhaul. We'll have the story. Plus, a unit of the Virginia-class submarine Idaho heads down the James River for electric boat. And the sparks are flying as the Columbia-class submarine program moves forward. Those stories and more are coming up, but first on deck, welcome home to CVN 74, the USS Stennis, back at Newport News Shipbuilding where she was built for her $2.9 billion overhaul. Lena Wallace joins us now with more on her arrival and the work ahead.
That's right, Bryan. I'm here with USS John C. Stennis above me and beside me. You can see water has already been pumped out of the dry dock here. Shipbuilders say that bringing the ship in gave them a big sense of pride since they're the only ones in the world who bring in a nuclear-powered warship for refueling and complex overhaul work. A perfect tow from Naval Station Norfolk to Newport News Shipbuilding. USS John C. Stennis returns to her birthplace. The nuclear-powered aircraft carrier up for overhaul after 25 years of service. When completed, redelivery to the Navy for another 25 years. Dockmaster John Anderson feeling the responsibility.
We're the only shipyard that refuels nuclear aircraft carriers, so the work we do here is vital to our country.
The stage set for the tugboat stance. Captain Jason Batcha says it takes thinking several steps ahead.
It's hard to play catch up with tugboats, so what you're seeing is you're seeing the tugs shuffling around, moving in different positions. It's difficult. You have the wind and the current working against you, so you have to make sure that the ship stays in the right location.
The Navy's largest size ship squeezing into Dry Dock 11.
It's a big sigh of relief and gratification and satisfaction.
As the new 315 metric ton Goliath gantry crane watches from above, ready for its first overhaul. Also new, dozens of LED lights around the dry dock. Foreman Antonio Wiggins in charge.
Without the lights down here, we can't see anything. At nighttime, mainly, the guys that work down there in the nighttime need the lights to see, and all the power that needed down there come from us.
Their goal of overhauling this ship efficiently to return to the fleet. With numerous upgrades and repairs, Dry Dock 11 thrives as it marks 80 years of service. For Focus NNS, I'm Lena Wallace. Back to you, Bryan.
All right, Lena, thanks so much for that report. It's great to see the Stennis back at Newport News Shipbuilding. Now, let's take a look at some other news from around the yard. Aircraft carrier suppliers from across the nation gathered virtually this year for the annual Aircraft Carrier Industrial Base Coalition Action Days. The conference is usually held in Washington, D.C., but due to COVID, the event was held online. Suppliers were still presented with program updates from Newport News Shipbuilding new construction and overhaul programs, as well as a supply chain discussion.
I think it's super important. You know, we're away from that interaction for over a year now, so getting everyone together, even though it was virtual, and we had a highest attendance ever, so I think it went well, and we had a lot of good questions, so it was great to be back on track, and I look forward to being in person next year.
Suppliers met virtually with their congressional representatives as well. Plans are underway to return to an in-person event in Washington, D.C. next year. A unit of the future USS Idaho, SSN 799, heads to electric boat as construction of the Virginia-class submarine continues. Newport News Shipbuilding teams up with General Dynamics Electric Boat to build the Virginia-class submarines. Idaho is the 26th boat in the class and the 5th U.S. naval vessel named after the state of Idaho. It's scheduled for completion in 2023. Vaccinations are up and new COVID cases are going down. The Newport News Shipbuilding vaccination site at the old Apprentice School gym will soon be shutting down at the end of May. Shipbuilders have been rolling up their sleeves to get the vaccination since the site opened in February. But as cases continue their downward trend, lots of COVID-related processes and policies are winding down. Once the site closes, you'll still be able to make an appointment for a vaccination at the Huntington Ingalls Family Health Center. For other COVID-related information and changes that are underway, make sure you go to the COVID-19 Newport News Shipbuilding 411 website. Well, forget drive-in movies, we've got drive-in graduation. The Newport News Shipbuilding Apprentice School hosted commencement exercises on April 17th for 154 graduates. Due to COVID-19, the ceremony was held outdoors, drive-in movie style at the Hampton Roads Convention Center in Hampton. Shipyard President Jennifer Boykin welcomed shipbuilders before the commencement address, which was delivered by Howard Hoege, president of the Mariners Museum.
Be the very best servant leader that you can be. Go find somebody in the yard to throw your arm around now that you've got the great good fortune of having the education that you've had and the great responsibility that you have now as a leader for your teams.
A lot of classes, a lot of hours worked, but this was what it was all for. It's real surreal with everything going on in the world. It's just nice to do something that feels a little normal too.
Graduate Mark Byerly received the Homer L. Ferguson Award, which recognizes the apprentice graduating with the highest honors. Two more trees are named for NNS-built ships at the Mariners Museum. The longleaf pine trees are named for USS Delaware, SSN 791, and USS Indiana, SSN 789. The trees are part of a longleaf pine grove dedicated in 2018 that commemorates ships built at Newport News Shipbuilding. Southeastern Virginia was once home to 1.5 million acres of longleaf pine habitat. However, the trees, which were widely used in early shipbuilding and other construction, were pushed to near extinction in the region. The longleaf pine grove at the Mariners Museum and Park is part of an effort to repopulate the trees in the area. Well, things continue to heat up in the Columbia-class program as that program continues to come to life. Aaron Pritchett takes us to the foundry to show us how.
Shipbuilding is challenging, ever-changing, and truth be told, quite fascinating. And whether it's an aircraft carrier or a submarine, it's a very meticulous process, and one that all begins in liquid form in one of Newport News Shipbuilding's oldest and well-renowned facilities, better known as the Foundry, where high temperatures, heavy lifting, mesmerizing metallurgy, and safe shipbuilders are the key ingredients to success. And most recently, with the largest casting pool required at over 21,000 pounds for the new Columbia-class submarine program.
This is where it all starts. This is where it all begins. The Foundry is strong. It'll always be strong. The Foundry is the lifeblood of the shipyard.
We make small parts, large parts, medium parts for aircraft carriers, submarines, and a lot of other Navy vessels that are in the fleet. It takes about 2 years from start to finish, from a basic drawing to the casting, leaving the back door. It's exciting. It gets everybody working as a team to make this happen. Very proud of that. We're now getting into the Columbia-class submarine, which is a brand new submarine, which brings its own challenges. And today we're pouring one of the largest pours for the Columbia class. The pour weight of the casting would be about 21,000 pounds.
First and foremost is our safety. We do have proper PPE when we're dealing with this type of heat. And it's just an ongoing process with us, and we got to stay prepared and we got to stay alert. It calls for both furnaces to be running. It calls for 2 ladles to take down to the job. The pour job is about 2850. So yes, we're working with some serious heat in here, and we communicate with each other, and everybody else is involved. We communicate with them. So communication is the key to being successful in this type of pour.
Looks fairly easy. We just melt metal and dump it in the mold, but it's very complex. The chemistry part of the process is at the very beginnings when we're melting the metal, but it affects the casting throughout the process. We have to get it right. It's the first part of this new class of submarine, and we will get it right.
Basically, being in here for 42 years and operating this crane, and coming up and down these tracks, we have to be conscious of everything that's around us. We have to sometimes have 4 eyes instead of 2. I'm told it's an easy job, you sit down all the time. But handling this metal, when I pick up a ladle of metal and start going down the floor, again, I have to watch everything. It's in my hands. And without these cranes moving this metal, we can't do any jobs at all. You have to keep an eye on your rigger coming over top of that mold and doing what needs to be done. The operator has to be precise. He has to be careful. He has to be direct.
The pattern making, molding, and pouring operations are only about 10 to 15% of the process. It's a very complex operation that has many different parts to make one casting. Pattern, mold, melting, all have to come together as one team to make this happen. It's not 3 or 4 separate organizations. It's one foundry with different parts that work together to make it look easy, to get the casting out the back door.
I think it's good to change things up for the next generation coming in. To stay afloat in this type of industry, we have to change and go with new ideas. And whatever the Navy asks us to do, we have to be on our toes to be able to do it. And always be a good ship and have good quality in what we do. So I think it's a new beginning for the shipyard.
Definitely quite a process the greatest shipbuilders in the world make look pretty easy, but one that is a critical start in casting the various components that will eventually be put together to bring the Columbia-class submarine program to life and serve this great country for future generations. For Focus NNS, I'm Pritchett. Back to you, Bryan.
All right, seeing that work in the foundry never gets old. Thanks so much, Aaron, for that report. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Focus NNS. Make sure you check out all the latest news going on at Newport News Shipbuilding in our weekly publication, Currents. And remember, download our free app, NNS To Go. It's available in the Google and Apple stores on your smartphones and tablets. And don't forget to watch Focus NNS on City TV and cable channels across the state. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Bryan Moore.